Using ChatGPT and Zapier can unlock some incredibly powerful workflows for AI automation. And today, I'm going to show you 3 ways you can automate almost any workflow using ChatGPT and Zapier. The first will be the easiest and most efficient, as everything you need ChatGPT to do will live in Zapier. The second is a bit more involved, but really cool and leverages OpenAI's assistance, and all without code for this tutorial. And the third is worth knowing, but truth be told, also a disaster. But we'll get into that a little later on. So prepare to level up and let's get right into it. Okay, before we dive into building out our AI automations, I highly recommend first connecting all the apps you'll be using in your Zapier account. So in Zapier, let's head over to the apps page. We'll be going through various impractical use cases for ChatGPT and Zapier today, so I'm going to connect ChatGPT, Gmail, Google Docs, and Google Sheets, but more on our use case in a little bit. As you can see, I've already connected Gmail, Docs, and Google Sheets, as those are pretty straightforward. Next, let's go ahead and connect ChatGPT. First, we're going to need an API key which will allow us to communicate with our ChatGPT account. To get an API key for ChatGPT, you'll need to head over to the OpenAI developer platform. For those that may not be aware, OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT. Now, if it's your first time here, you will need to log in using your regular ChatGPT account. You may also need to connect a credit card, as most Zapier actions will use OpenAI API credits, though they're extremely cheap for light to medium workloads, but definitely still recommend you set account billing limits in your OpenAI account. Once logged in, click Dashboard, then head over to API Keys. Once on the API Keys screen, select Create a new secret key, give it a name, and then finally click Create Secret Key. Copy the key, as we'll need it in a moment, but also keep this dialog box open just in case your clipboard gets cleared, as once the dialog box is closed, you'll have to once again go through the steps to generate a new key to be able to copy it again. Also, if this part of OpenAI is new to you or seems daunting, don't worry. I will circle back to cover this portal in much more detail later in this video, as building a Zap using the tools here will allow us to create next-level automations that leverage the very best features of OpenAI in a highly customizable manner. For now, let's head back to connecting our ChatGPT account to Zapier. I'll select Add Connection and then search for ChatGPT. Then a window requesting your API key appears, so you can simply paste in the API key we just copied. There is an option to add an organization ID, but most people can leave this field blank unless they belong to multiple organizations in the OpenAI platform. And then we'll click Yes, continue to ChatGPT. And just like that, our ChatGPT account is now connected to Zapier. So now, heading back to our apps page, we can see we have everything connected and are ready to start automating workflows using AI. So let's head over to the Zaps page. For our first use case, let's create a Zapier automation that writes highly customized welcome emails for new leads reaching out to a fictitious digital marketing agency we'll call XYZ Marketing. Once the email is written, we then like for the draft to be added to our Gmail drafts folder for final review. And we'd also like to update this lead tracking spreadsheet that the team at XYZ Marketing uses, letting them know that the draft is ready. And for good measure, we'll also get it to add the draft to the Google Sheet for easy review by the team at XYZ Marketing. So let's click Create a new Zap. The trigger for this Zap will be a form submission on our agency's Contact Us page, which we'll use to then simulate a real-life lead coming in when testing out our automation. So I'll click Trigger and then head over to Zapier Interfaces. Once there, I'd like this Zap to kick off when a new form submission is created. The interface will be the one I created for XYZ Marketing Agency, and the page will be the agency's Contact Us form. Once we have all the required fields, we can then just hit continue. And let's test our trigger. The test then shows us all the fields filled out in the last form submission we received on this form, and everything does seem to be in order. So I'll hit continue with selected record. Next, for our action, let's summon ChatGPT. There are several really cool events to choose from here, such as analyzing an image, checking text moderations, or even classifying text. But for today, I'm going to select conversation. Next, our account is already connected, so we can breeze past this step. Next, we'll need to fill in the user message. You can think of this box as what you type in had you been in ChatGPT itself. We're then going to customize what we'd like ChatGPT to do with this information a little further down. But for now, we'll let it know there's a new lead submission and we'll provide it with the information from the form. Since our goal is to design a highly customized email, we'll include our lead's first name, title, company, industry, and city for ChatGPT to work with. Next, you have the option to choose which model you'd like for ChatGPT to use. For now, I'll stick with GPT-4o Mini, though if you're doing something more comprehensive, I'd recommend choosing GPT-4o. We can then leave all the other fields as is. But for assistant instructions, we'll let it know that it's a highly capable business development rep that writes a highly personalized welcome email for new leads reaching out to our digital marketing agency. It'll use the lead's company, title, industry, and city to give a warm welcome and let them know XYZ Marketing is excited to work with them. And of course, the email should have great structure and a warm greeting, including the first name, providing top-notch customer service here. And of course, let's test our step. And looking at the output, we can then scroll down to the reply and see that we've been given a well-crafted email that includes the subject, welcome to XYZ Marketing Stanley, and a welcome email for Stanley. Pretty cool for very high-touch sales processes. Everything else here looks fine, so next, let's add in our Gmail integration so it can send this email to the drafts folder. For event, I'll select create draft. Again, our account is already good to go. And now this is where we can customize things. For our subject line, I'm going to keep it simple and have it as welcome to XYZ Marketing first name. And I'll pull the first name from our initial form submission. To speed things up for our reps, we can even then have the to-field pre-field with Stanley's email. For the body of the email is where we can then insert our ChatGPT response. And with the basics out the way, let's continue and test out our step. And so we get a confirmation that a draft email has been sent to Gmail. Let's go ahead and verify that. And here's our draft email with everything we needed. Of course, the format could use some work, but these are all things you can refine and tweak in your user prompt when setting up your Zap. Okay, back to our Zap. Let's now add in our Google Sheets integration so that we can let the team know the email has been drafted and give them a preview of the email as well. So we'll click Add Step and then choose Google Sheets. For the event, we'd like it to create a new spreadsheet row. Next, we need to tell it where the spreadsheet is and which spreadsheet in particular we'd like to edit. Once selected, you'll see that it pulled in all the current columns in our spreadsheet ready for us to customize. So much potential here. So let's go ahead and add in all the fields from our form into our lead spreadsheet. Okay, so this is all the key lead details filled out. You'll notice our form didn't have a country field, so we'll leave it blank. For the status box, it's actually going to be a manual update. So let's update it to draft ready. And for the email copy, we can simply include our copy from the ChatGPT conversation and then continue. And let's test the step. And it should have successfully created this lead in our spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and take a look at our spreadsheet. And there's our new lead with the status draft ready and the subject line, welcome to XYZ Marketing Agency. If this were in the real world, this will be a massive leap in productivity for this team as all of the steps would have been manual before. Before hitting publish, let's give our Zap a name. And other than this, everything else looks good, so let's hit publish. Okay, now for the fun part. Let's take our Zap for a test drive. I'm going to be John Doe at John Doe Healthcare. And once everything looks good, let's hit submit. And our form has been submitted. So let's head back to Gmail. And boom, just like that, we have a new welcome email for John. And of course, the email is tailored to John, who lives in New York and is in the healthcare industry. Really cool. And jumping over to our spreadsheet for our sales team, Joe's details have now all been entered in here. Okay, so this method that I just walked through is your best bet for most straightforward ChatGPT and Zapier integrations, as it keeps everything in one place should you ever need to troubleshoot or tweak things. Next, let's take a look at building Zaps that leverage OpenAI assistants. Let's say you wanted a more advanced AI integration that could pull data from multiple sources and feed it into a highly customized AI assistant fine-tuned to your data and desired outcome, then your best bet is to first build an AI assistant in OpenAI and then automate your workflow and data sources using Zapier. So let's head back to the OpenAI developer platform and get a quick lay of the land for anyone new here. It probably goes without saying, but this part of OpenAI is designed with coders in mind. But I'm going to keep this no code, as there is still so much you can do without writing a single line of code. First, let's head to the Playground tab. If it's your first time here, you'll be greeted with a welcome message. One thing to note is that at the time of recording, all models knowledge goes up to October 2023. Though of course you could get creative with how you feed up-to-the-date information into your automation. Okay, everything in the developer platform is organized into projects. A great way to stay organized, especially if you're integrating with different services and tools such as Zapier. The chat tab that we're currently on allows you to easily and quickly test drive different models, all of which you can customize in the right-hand pane. The Assistance tab is where all the magic happens, and we'll come back to this in a second. TTS stands for text-to-speech and allows you to preview how output text would sound based on the parameters chosen if you were to use one of OpenAI's voices in their platform. Let's quickly take it for a spin.
This is how this will sound when integrated into another application.
This is how this will sound when integrated into another application.
This is how this will sound when integrated into another application.
Okay, pretty cool. And the last tab is Completions, but I won't even get into this as it's now considered a legacy product in the OpenAI platform. When you click into your dashboard, you're greeted by all your assistants. The fine-tuning and batches screens are for more advanced users and use cases that would aim to fully customize OpenAI's models to fit their specific needs. The Storage tab is where all your uploaded and generated files will live for easy reference and management. And lastly, the Usage tab helps you keep a tab on your costs and activity. Okay, back on the Assistance tab, let's build a really cool assistant. For the sake of time, I'm going to keep our instructions for this assistant pretty brief, but just know you can go wild here to build almost anything your heart desires. Our use case this time around will be to build a copywriter at XYZ Marketing that needs to create a daily blog that contains thoughtful and insightful search engine optimization, aka SEO, and marketing tips for businesses in the retail sector. We'll also be adding a couple knowledge files to our AI assistant that contain best practices for SEO in the retail sector so that our assistant is fully dialed in on our topic. And finally, we'll also like to generate a cover image for our blog. That we'll be doing back in Zapier, and we'll see why in a second. So let's name it Retail Copywriter at XYZ Marketing. For our instructions, we're letting it know that it is a talented and very knowledgeable marketing copywriter whose job is to create daily blog posts that give marketing and SEO tips to companies in the retail sector. The blog should use knowledge from the attached files to improve its domain expertise when talking about SEO. What files, you may ask? We'll add those in just a moment. But once again, we have the option to select what model we desire. I'd recommend keeping this to 4.0 or whatever latest model is out at the time. The tools section here looks very simple, but is incredibly powerful. The file search section allows you to upload files that your assistants then use as additional knowledge. And it can also automatically decide when to retrieve the content based on the user's request. So I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 resources which I think cover retail SEO extremely well. Once added, you can simply click Attach. And then don't forget to enable the file search option. The code interpreter is really cool and powerful, but we won't be using it today. But a use case for that would be, say you had a spreadsheet with data you wanted your assistant to generate graphs for. You could easily add those files to the interpreter, and then the assistant will be able to run Python code to generate your analysis and charts. We'll leave everything else on this page as it is more geared to those that are using code. One thing to note though is that the response format, at least for now, can only be text, and so we're going to have to generate our image in a separate step in Zapier. But for now, let's head over to the playground and take our assistant for a test drive. The playground will look familiar to most, as it's pretty much just the ChatGPT chat interface, but supercharged by our custom OpenAI assistant. Let's ask it to create today's blog post. It then goes on to create a blog post, but would you look at that, it ran into an error. Though with things like this, errors are to be expected from time to time. So let's give it one more try and see if that changes things. I'll clear the thread and then ask it again. And success! As you can see, we got back a pretty comprehensive blog post that does speak to those in the retail sector. Really cool. In the top right-hand corner, you will notice the number of tokens used, and these do affect your billing. The seemingly high number for the input simply represents the amount of data read in our attached knowledge files. And of course, the output is a basic blog post, so it is much less. All in all though, this probably only cost a couple cents, but I will say to always be mindful of your tokens and billing when working with very large files. Okay, now back in Zapier, let's build out our fancy AI automation that leverages OpenAI assistance. We'll once again select Create New Zap, and right off the bat, let's name it Retail Copywriter. For our trigger this time, let's say we want a new blog post every day at 9 a.m. So we'll select Schedule by Zapier. For the event, we'll say every day and then click Continue. And let's select 9 a.m. And since this is a publication targeted towards businesses, let's have it not run on weekends. And we'll run a quick test, and as you can see, the test basically gives us back all the datetime fields we could need and which will become very handy in the next couple of steps. For our next action, let's add in ChatGPT. Our action this time will be to have a conversation with an assistant, and continue. For the message, we'll enter Write Today's Blog. Again, this is just basically the prompt you'd enter in the ChatGPT or OpenAI interface. For the assistant, we're going to choose our retail copywriter at XYZ Marketing Assistant. Everything else here can be left blank as our assistant is already fully configured in OpenAI's platform. And for good measure, we'll test this step. And looking at our data out, we did successfully get back a new blog post. You'll notice it's formatted in Markdown, where headings and subheadings are marked with pound signs and stars. This may not look the best in Word, but if you were to paste it in a publishing platform, it should look good again. Next, let's add a Google Doc for a place to have our draft blog live. Though of course, you could actually integrate this into WordPress or your blogging platform of choice. In this case, our action will be to create a document from text. For our document name, I'm going to name it blog post and add in the date of which it was created. So from the information from our trigger, let's take in the pretty date. And for the document content, we just need to paste in our full response from ChatGPT. And then we'll hit continue. And let's test this step out. And it lets us know a document was sent to Google Docs, but let's verify this in Google Drive. And here's our blog post, ready for some final minor edits and then good to publish. What a time saver. Next up, let's generate an image for our blog. One could simply paste the entire contents of the blog in ChatGPT's DALL-E image generator and see what comes up. But DALL-E doesn't do too well with mountains of text. So this is where we can get creative with our automation. We're going to get ChatGPT to read our blog and suggest a prompt we can then use to generate an image for the blog. So first, let's add in another ChatGPT step. And this time we'll once again have a conversation. So we're going to let ChatGPT know that below is a blog post, and we're going to ask it to create a prompt for an image that would be relevant to the blog. And then we'll add in the full response. We'll keep everything else the same for now, though of course you're always free to play around with these settings to find a setting that works best for your situation. And let's test the step. And look at that, our reply provides a great prompt we can now use to generate a header image for our blog. So let's once again add another ChatGPT action, but this time to generate an image. And we'll get our prompt from our second ChatGPT conversation. For the model, I'd highly recommend DALL-E 3, as DALL-E 2 would leave a lot to be desired. For number of desired results, let's type in 2 so that we have options. And for quality, I'll stick with standard for now. In terms of size, let's go with a square. And for the style, let's see what Vivid gets us. We'll then hit continue and test the step. Would you look at that, we encountered an error. So let's go back to our configure page and try fix it. Though I can't see anything wrong here. But let's tweak the number of desired results to 1 and try again. Okay, so that seemed to work. So maybe for now, you can only do one image at a time, but that may change over time. I hope anyways. As I mentioned earlier, images generated do not appear in Zapier. However, you do get a URL for the image. So if we were to copy this URL, this is what our image would look like. Certainly not the greatest of images, but you do get a good idea of the possibilities here. Now, for the final step, let's add our link to our Word doc so whoever's doing the final edits will know where to find the image. We'll go to Add Step, select Google Docs again, and this time, it's going to append text to document. Now, since our Word document is being created in real time in the Zap, we'll need to add in what's known as a search step. Basically, a search step lets you dynamically look up a value each time your Zap runs. And we know from the earlier step that our blog post is going to be called blog post and today's pretty date. And then let's test this out to see if this works. And pretty quickly we get a successful response, which is perfect. So let's hit continue. And now back to the append text to document step. We're once again still in Google Docs, so we just hit continue. We have our document name here, and the text to append, we can just simply paste our image link. And let's test this step out. Okay, we got a successful response here, but did it really go to our document? Well, let's find out. And here is our image link ready to go. Very convenient, especially if you can nail down your image prompts to get images that actually make sense. Okay, everything here looks good, so I'm going to hit publish. And just like that, our copywriter Zap is good to go. Now, this was a pretty involved Zap, but you can imagine the realm of possibilities here in terms of building out workflows that conduct highly specialized and AI-powered tasks. Now, let's take a look at the third method using Zapier within ChatGPT. To do this, we're going to need to use GPTs. As a quick refresher, GPTs in ChatGPT are basically custom versions of ChatGPT designed to do a particular task really well. To learn more about GPTs, feel free to check out the video linked in the top right-hand corner. Now, right off the bat, I will say this is the most painful method to use Zapier with ChatGPT, and in this particular case, it actually did not work for me. But I do feel there's still value in showing the steps in case this may have just been a bug on this particular day. So to get started, head over to the Explore GPTs page in ChatGPT, then click Create. We'll keep our use case for this one fairly simple, just to illustrate the steps involved in using Zapier within ChatGPT. Let's build a motivational GPT that gives us motivational quotes for our team at XYZ Marketing. And then we'll add those quotes to our email drafts for when we need to send a pick-me-up. On the GPT Builder screen, there are two ways to build GPTs, either by using the Create tab for a guided experience, or you can jump straight ahead to the configuration page. For today, I'll use the configuration page so we can quickly cover the bases, though I would actually recommend using the Create page first, when building a GPT, as it tends to ask really good questions that can help refine your GPT's instructions. You'll notice the configure page is very similar to the assistants on OpenAI, with the key difference here being this page is designed to be as no to low code as possible, though you can still add in custom functionality via actions at the bottom, which we'll be doing in just a second. For now, let's build out our basic GPT. We'll name it Motivational GPT, and let's give it a DALL-E generated logo. Interesting logo, but you know what? We'll run with it. For conversation starters, I'll add in a simple today's motivation button. And for the instructions, we'll let it know that it is a motivational leader that gives motivational quotes to the team at XYZ Marketing. And let's quickly test it out in the preview pane to see what it comes back with. And when you look at that, success is not about being the best, it's about being better than you were yesterday. Keep pushing forward and let every small victory fuel your journey to greatness. Let's make today count. I'm sure that'll get the employees working harder and not more money. Okay, now that we know that the bones of our GPT are working, let's add in Zapier so that we can then send our generated quote to Gmail. I'll first add in the additional instruction for it to add the email to our drafts folder. And then scrolling down, you can of course customize your GPT with added knowledge and capabilities here. But for today, I'm just going to simply click Create New Action. You'll then need to follow the instructions on this page provided by Zapier. I'll also leave a link down in the description of this video. First, we'll click Import from URL and then paste in the URL we got from the Zapier landing page, and then click Import. If you're building a GPT that's going to go public, you'll also need to include a privacy policy. Once that's done, let's head back to the configure page. Next, we'll then need to copy a chunk of text to our instructions page. These instructions basically let the GPT know how to interact with Zapier. You'll notice at the bottom of these custom instructions is a required action section. This is the most important piece of this, as this is where you'll be adding in the actions you want your GPT to be able to perform. Since we only have one action today, I'm going to delete the second one here. And for the setup action, let's replace these values here with Gmail, add draft, email. And then let's hit close. This should be everything we need, so let's testing out again by selecting today's motivation. Next, you then go through a series of prompts to authenticate your GPT with your Zapier account. On the next page, you can simply click Allow, and our account is connected. So let's try that one more time. And this time our quote is from Winston Churchill. Now next, we need to give our Zapier action permission to add to our Gmail folder. So let's click Always Allow to hopefully keep things simple. However, lo and behold, there is an error. But you know what? We believe in second chances. So let's actually fully publish this GPT by hitting Create. And for now, we'll keep it visible to only me and then save. And then let's view our GPT, which is what it would look like in the real world if this link was shared publicly. So once again, let's get today's motivation. And once again, we're greeted with an error. But if we try again, there is no success. Okay, so let's try tweaking our action just a bit. And lo and behold, something's different. So let's follow the configuration link and see what happens. But yet another plot twist, this link isn't actually working. But maybe if we update our GPT and try again in the live environment, that actually might work. So let's try again. Okay, so this doesn't seem to be working at all. Strangely, I tried these exact same instructions and setup yesterday and things did work. Of course, albeit with lots of hiccups. So if you do have success with this method, please feel free to let me know. Though I do have an older video where this does seemingly work, which I'll link in the top right hand corner. Okay, so overall, integrating ChatGPT and Zapier can unlock some incredibly powerful workflows. For ease of use, I'd avoid the GPT Builder completely until OpenAI and Zapier sort that mess out. However, building Zaps that incorporate ChatGPT directly in Zapier does work very well. And for advanced users or those with coding abilities, the OpenAI Assistance feature offers some very powerful tools to fine-tune things to your liking. I'd love to hear the sort of workflows and automations you've built that incorporate ChatGPT and Zapier in the comments down below. Thanks for watching and catch you in the next one.